Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Season 13, Episode 11, overall 671 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by our friends at Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, located at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out their website, barrycullen.com, for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of all-electric vehicles and Cadillac vehicles as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210 and tell them Chris Palme sent you, or you can email them at info@barrycullen.com. Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership has been family run and operated here in the city of Guelph since 1969 and has been a main sponsor and advertiser of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show for the past 3 years. Good afternoon, everybody, on this Thursday, March 5th, 2026. This is my first of 2 shows today, and I'm looking forward to my guest. This is his 3rd appearance on our show, and the first time he's come on our show with the Buffalo Sabres playing as well as they are, and his name is Brian Koziol. He is the pre- and post-game host of the Buffalo Sabres Radio Network on WGR Sports Radio 550, 107.7 FM, and 104.7 FM as well in Buffalo, New York. And we're going to bring on Brian Koziol right now and talk a little Sabres hockey with him as well. Good afternoon, Brian. How are you?
I'm great, Chris. Thanks for having us on. And yes, it's been a change for all of us too, having all new call letters and numbers to have to rattle off. So we're excited that we are reaching a bigger audience. We're even also simulcast throughout the majority of our day in Rochester too. So a great opportunity for people of Western New York, Southern Ontario now for our signal to kind of grow, get even larger so they can all enjoy WGR with a little clearer sound.
As for that, I know you probably can't comment on this, but as for the Bills and the Sabres, is there still a chance the Sabres games could be on your station next year at some point?
So yes, so the Bills and the Sabres are taking over the production of the actual broadcast itself. But okay. The plan is from everything from what I've heard is that they will still be airing on a radio station in Buffalo, and it very well could be us. So we could
fingers crossed.
Yeah. So and we would love it if that's the case. Yes.
Because I think you guys do a great job, yourself and Pat and Dan Dunleavy and Rob Ray. And I'm so happy for Rob and Dan, too, because it's been a long time since the Sabres have played this well for this long of a period.
It really has. And, just for the crew that you mentioned, all of us that work on the TV and the radio side on the broadcast, it is refreshing because at least from my perspective, for someone that talks in between the periods and that during the intermissions and on the post game, obviously I'm kind of giving you and analyzing the takes of my games or of what's happening. So I think overall, when you look at what's been happening with this team lately, it's been a huge turnaround. And the fact that we're able to talk about the game now, it's felt like for about a decade, Chris, it's been about, well, do we have the right coach? Do we have to fire the coach? Have they waited too long to fire the coach? Do we have the right general manager? Do we have to change general managers? Like, who should be called up from the AHL? Like, what trades need to happen? Like, it has been a non-stop, decade-plus conversation about are the right people running the organization and what players need to go and what players maybe should they keep. And finally now, after games, it's been so much better in the sense that we're talking about the games because the games actually matter. And, our conversations of debating about which goaltender should be in, whether it's Alex Lyon or Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, or who Lindy Ruff should be sending out on the power play. I mean, all these sort of things, or how they're playing the third period, or like, it's really, really refreshing for all of us. I will definitely say it. I've said it on the air before. Like, I want the Sabres to win, because when everybody is more engaged with the Sabres, more people are going to listen to our broadcast, and more people are going to enjoy our broadcast, and I'll get to interact more with fans. So I know I try to analyze them unbiasedly, but of course I want them to do well, especially because for the past 14 years, it's been talking about them being at the bottom. The fact that now that they're challenging for the top, it's almost like we're covering a brand new team. It really is. It's been a great experience here. It's been really refreshing and invigorating, I think, for all of us.
Now, they did fire Kevin Adams. Hypothetically, do you think this run could have started even if he had stayed as general manager? Because usually a team can get hot when they fire a coach, but generally when they fire a GM, you don't see this.
Yeah, you always hear about the coach's bump after they make a coaching change. And I don't think I've ever really heard about it with a GM. Like you mentioned, it's unique, but it is, it is the exact timeline that things turned around. The Sabres were on a 6-game road trip out west in early December, and it started off terribly. They were 0-3, and they were in dead last in the Eastern Conference. And then there were some reports from multiple reputable sources that said that Terry Pegula, the Sabres owner, was going to make the change, and that he was going to fire the general manager. And the only reason I think it didn't happen at that moment was because they were out west. Adams was with the team on the trip, and that all the reports were saying, hey, when they come home, that it'll be an official, real deal thing. And for whatever reason, the Sabres that night were playing in Edmonton. They were up 3-0 going to the third, and ended up giving up a goal right away, 10 seconds into the period, and then McDavid scored with a second left in the third to tie it. But then Alex Tuch ends up winning it in overtime. And Lindy Ruff pointed to that moment of, hey, look what we can do against a good team like the Oilers. Look how we were able to persevere through some adversity and figure it out. Now, coincidentally, it was the same day that all those reports came out about Adams. The Sabres went on to sweep the rest of the road trip. They won the next 3, and eventually then 7 more. They won 10 in a row, and it's been on ever since. I mean, they have got the 25-5-2 streak going on right now since that December 7th date. One of the best points percentages in the NHL since that time period. And, they literally they were in dead last in the Eastern Conference in the middle of that Western trip, to now the fact that they're not only in what I would say is a comfortable playoff spot, but they're challenging Tampa for top in the Atlantic, and Carolina is right there as well for top overall in the East. It really, really is an incredible turnaround over 3 months.
Was there ever any talk of Lindy Ruff being let go as well before Kevin Adams was fired too?
I think when we heard about the changes with Adams, I think that's when the discussion came with Lindy. And I think that was fair. I mean, last year did not go well, and this year they were heading nowhere fast, in the basement in the standings. And usually coaches are the ones to go first before GMs go. But Adams, obviously having now into his 6th season, that seemed to maybe be the more pressing matter. I think because Lindy's tenure this time with the Sabres was so short, it was still only a season and just 2 months in, that people were thinking, well, at the very least, he has a 2-year contract. They'll at least maybe let him finish the season, and then maybe he can step aside, retire, kind of do whatever. But Lindy has really, really got to get a lot of credit for this turnaround. The team has been crediting Lindy for kind of just enforcing them. They use the phrase after every game, playing the right way. And that is something that's been really, really, I think, impressive with this turnaround, is that they've been able to do that. Beck Malenstein, one of the fourth liners for the Sabres, I had a great interview on one of our post-game shows a couple of games ago, and somebody actually asked him this. He's like, you keep saying playing the right way, playing the right way. He's like, can you let us know what you guys mean by that? And he said it's twofold. He said defensively, when we were pressured, we made terrible puck decisions. And he said just for whatever reason, the light bulbs went off. Like, they are making such better decisions with the puck defensively in terms of what to do in their own end to how to lead to offense. And then he says on the other side, on the offensive side, the entire team's commitment to going to the net. He said Lindy has been saying this for day one, but he said it finally maybe sunk into these players that they've got to be around the net. They're getting more goals that you'd call the puck luck. They're getting more goals because they're dragging extra defenders around and they're getting these bounces. And suddenly these lucky, you label them as a lucky bounce, but suddenly there's a defender there and it goes off their ankle and then over to somebody's stick and they're able to put it in an open net. And you say, oh, that's lucky. Well, in some sense, it was as a result of you being at the net, which brought the defender to the net. And all of a sudden now that bounce was created because of that. The Sabres played a lot of offensive perimeter hockey, and now they're getting guys to the net, and that seemingly has been a really, really good push for them offensively. And let's face it, too, there are some players that probably had fatigue from losing, and the GM change maybe signaled to them a fresh start, a turning of the page, a guy that they can believe in. The players talk how they really believe that Jarmo Kekalainen is going to make this team better, that they believe that he's the guy to steer the ship. I know that over the course of this last day or so, there's been a lot of reports about a trade with St. Louis. And, just as we take air here today, Chris, you and I, we've seen that he's actually turned down that trade. Colton Parenko has. So,
yes,
the Sabres still have work to do because look you have a player that could go from a right now in the standings, a team that's not in the playoffs to a team that's on its way to the playoffs. And he still said no. Now, there could be other personal reasons as to maybe why he didn't want to do that. He has that right. Whether I agree or disagree that everybody can have all these no trade clauses, no movements, but he decided no. And, at least the signal is that Jarmo Kekalainen and the Sabres GM is going for it here. I like this, that it's not just, we're happy to make it. I think he realizes this team right now is playing very, very well, and it has a chance to beat anybody in the East. As you know from us watching previous playoffs, just because you're the top seed or you're the 7 or the 8, that doesn't mean that that's how it's going to play out in the playoffs. We know the NHL is probably the most difficult to predict, and it's not really an upset if a 6 beats a 3, or if the 2 and the 3 play in the Atlantic Division, if the 3 beats the 2, or those aren't upsets in the NHL. These teams are so tight. They're so jumbled in the standings. Just because one team might have home ice advantage, to me, anything can happen. And that includes Buffalo possibly, beating anybody in the East as well.
I wanted to ask you this before we get into the Detroit Red Wings for a minute there too. Lindy Ruff's coached a long time. If this Sabres team gets into the playoffs, regardless where they finish as seeding, do you feel Lindy Ruff should be considered for the coach of the year for the job he's done with the Sabres team and the turnaround?
I think so. And I think probably whether it's right or wrong, and it plays into Lindy Ruff's favor, hockey writers, coaches, audience, fans are fully aware of how bad the Sabres have been and how they have been on this long, epic, history-making playoff drought. So the fact that they were able to not only maybe, it looks like, break this drought, but maybe finish very high too, I think people like a good story. And I think the Sabres are a good story this year that hockey fans in general, unless you are a super, super hardcore fan of a Sabres rival team, if you're just a hockey fan in general, you probably are also maybe enjoying the Sabres story as one of the nice headline stories of this year. So I think that plays into it too, that probably, if there's a handful of coaches that probably are deserving, people might say, hey, you know what Lindy's really, this Sabres team is such a great story here. And they might kind of just shade their vote a little bit more towards Lindy's side.
It would be nice to see the Sabres and the Red Wings get in, because the Red Wings are in their longest playoff drought ever, 9 years. The Sabres are at 14. But I noticed the difference between these two clubs. I know it's only 1 point difference. Buffalo is the goal differential of plus 26. Detroit is -2. Detroit's the only team in the East that's in a playoff spot, being in the minus goal differential. And I do feel Steve Yzerman needs to do something at the trade deadline as well. As for the Sabres, if you were the GM right now, Brian, what area would you like to see the Sabres addressed if they can in the trade deadline?
So 2 spots. I think the trade for Parenko that now ultimately fell through, I think still a depth defenseman. The Sabres' top 4 has been playing excellent, and those 4 include Samuelsson, Dahlin, Power, and Byram. I don't really have to have a need to maybe ruin. I don't mean ruin. I break up that top 4. I think those top 4 can be there. The 5-6 pair has had a little injury-riddled areas. Connor Timmins that they acquired from Pittsburgh last year was very good killing penalties, but he's dealing with an injury now, and there's really no timetable. They miss him on the penalty kill especially. He was outstanding at blocking shots. So I think a 5-6 pair defenseman, which I think is something that the Sabres can pull off. I think they obviously tried that with Parenko, but he may have ended up playing much more minutes than maybe a traditional last pair D guy would play, to the point where maybe he would even mix in with some of those other four that I mentioned. The only other thing that I might want to think about is what is happening with Yuri Kulich. He has missed the majority of the season with a blood clot issue. The Sabres are doing some testing. They're hoping to find out results any day now, whether or not he can return. If he can't, I'd like to see them maybe add some center depth, because he would be out. Josh Norris, while at this moment he's healthy, knock on wood, Sabres fans, we know his injury-prone career, including twice this year. Can he last through a playoff run or multiple series? That's a concern. I might want to have just a little insurance there. That's why the Robert Thomas news, I think, was exciting for Sabre fans to think about. Wow, not only is that center depth, but that flips your center depth. Now, you could have Thompson, Thomas, and Norris as your 1, 2, 3, and that really looks impressive on paper. And maybe because the Parenko trade fell through, maybe the Sabres can circle back to a trade like that. But it doesn't have to be a monster name like Thomas. In general, just to answer your question here, to wrap this up with those two answers, a final pair defenseman, a 5-6 pair D, and something at center to maybe have a little insurance for Josh Norris if he does get injured again.
What is your thoughts on the Sabres goaltending trio? They don't really have a number one starter. They've all been really good. But do you feel the Sabres have the goaltending to get into the playoffs and have a run possibly?
It has been very, very fun to watch this rotation, because now they're literally rotating games. It's been back and forth and back and forth. And each night I've kind of, I'm thinking, oh, maybe this would be the guy that you'd start the playoffs with, or maybe this would be the guy that you start the playoffs with. In general, I think if Lindy Ruff said, Brian, it's up to you, make the decision tonight. This is game one of the playoffs. Who's starting? I'd give the slight edge to Alex Lyon. I think his ceiling has been a little higher, and I think he's been extremely consistent. If you look at some of the analytical numbers of expected goals and expected saves and all that sort of stuff, where he has been in the top 5 in the league here since the Sabres have been in this run. So to me, he's making even those bigger saves along the way. Now, Luukkonen has played just as good, and his goals against average is even a little bit better. But Luukkonen, to me, still at times, I feel like there's always 1 or 2 goal here and there. I'm being very, very picky because they're playing very, very well. I'm just trying to separate the two. But probably there is still option C, which is to just keep rotating. They've played every other game, and it's working, and both goaltenders are thriving in this area. They're always fresh, which is great. Even with having a third goaltender, Colton Ellis, and I don't know how this will play out with the trade deadline, if they're going to add people, if they have to maybe do something there. But even with them carrying 3 goaltenders, Ellis has been able to be the backup. So it's really been a true rest night off for the goalie that's not starting. So when Lyon is not playing, he's actually a healthy scratch. So he doesn't have to even go through the physical, mental preparation of, hey, I'm going to be the backup tonight. I got to be ready to play just in case, that kind of thing. It can be, he says, it's a nice, just truly physical and mental reset for him. So it seems to be working. And then obviously when Luukkonen has the night off, Ellis is the one that backs up Lyon. So it seems as though, even though 3 goalies might present a problem, right now Lindy Ruff has this working perfectly with Lyon and Luukkonen rotating every other game, Ellis being the backup, allowing the guy that's not playing to fully rest on nights off. It's a well-oiled machine right now. And I guess, probably the correct answer is just don't touch it. Keep doing what you're doing until it stops working.
Alex Lyon, I liked him when he was with the Red Wings, and obviously he's fit in well with the Sabres team so far.
He is a guy that's super interesting to listen to. He is a very, very good I'd say, scout and critique and analysis of his own game. He gives really thorough responses when we've had him for post-game interviews and pre-game interviews. I think he's a guy that's a really, really smart player. I think that helps when you're in the net, because goaltending mentally can be such a challenging position. You're out there on an island. You're out there by yourself. Everybody talks about how goalies maybe are a little different up here. You got to kind of figure out, like, how can you be this good all this long when you're by yourself out there as a goaltender? And I think he's got the really right mindset for it. So he hasn't really gotten an opportunity to play this much, and it's really, really working out for him. So, I think that's been a very, very nice addition. Again, Kevin Adams was the one that went and signed him. The JJ Paterka trade that landed Josh Doan, that was a Kevin Adams trade. So some of the moves that the Sabres were able to make this offseason, like it's funny. I've had this discussion on postgame that you're going to have a general manager that was fired for a team being in last place that's going to get GM of the year votes. Kevin Adams is not going to win, but he's going to get some votes from people if the Sabres end up like winning the Atlantic Division, because this roster literally has not changed. Jarmo Kekalainen tried to make that trade with Parenko. That still hasn't come through. Literally, the lineup has not changed. This team is Kevin Adams' handprints all over it. Now, the mindset and what Jarmo brings to this team, and maybe that reset button that we talked about, the turn the page thing, really that helped. And maybe that Jarmo is the guy now to be that leading them going forward. But in terms of the roster construction, I'll be the first to say Kevin Adams deserved to be fired because of the team's performance and their record over 5+ seasons. But he also should get credit for this roster being together and performing the way it is now, because he put it together.
Do you think Kevin Adams in the future will get another shot at the GM in the National Hockey League?
I think he will at least get a front office position with some team. Will it be immediately right to GM? I'm not sure. I wouldn't necessarily predict that. But I think the fact that now he can say, hey, look, this Sabre team that everybody thinks is, doing so well, this was my vision. So I think just because of how now this has changed and flipped, that it's going to give him a shot somewhere with some team. Maybe it's an assistant GM, in that capacity. And maybe it is a GM. I don't know. But I wouldn't put it past another team saying, okay, Kevin, you showed you can know how to assemble a roster. Maybe just because the Sabres were so young, it took a little bit of extra time for it to happen.
Brian, what is the mood like from the Sabres fan base right now and the local media towards this team? And has this taken away the sting of the Bills' playoff disappointment to Denver too, with the Sabres doing so successful and the Bandits kind of struggling this year so far?
Yes, I think the fan base is just soaking in every minute of it. There is an entire generation of anybody that's under the age of 30 that haven't experienced what it's like when the Sabres have been in the postseason, nor attended games, what it's like in the building since they've been really, really good. So there are definitely a lot of fans, teenagers, kids, anybody in their 20s that are like, wow, this is incredible. This is something new. And for all the people that were around, including myself, when they were good, when they went to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals there in the early 2000s, it's, to me, I'm like, wow, I forgot how good it is when the city and the fans and the media are all in on talking Sabres and watching Sabres every single day. It's been a really, really refreshing change. To me, it's been invigorating doing these pre-games and intermissions and post-games on our Sabres radio broadcast, because, like I said, it's literally like having a whole new team and a whole new conversation to talk about. So I know the media is kind of enjoying it with that aspect, and fans are really, really buying it. It didn't take much for fans to come back, but now that they see that the Sabres have shown that they can be counted upon consistently, it's all in. I mean, tickets sales are way up. The games have been sold out now consecutively for a while, so I would expect it to continue here as they go towards the playoffs.
Brian, you were in the arena the other night, obviously doing the pre and post game show. What was the reaction Tuesday night to former Sabre Jack Eichel and Sabre Tage Thompson gold medal winners at the Olympics as well? What was the overall reaction to both of them?
It was great. Thompson, Eichel, and then even Noah Hannafin was there too from Vegas. All three players were honored before the game. Obviously, it was steered a little bit more towards Thompson because it was the Sabres home game. But Jack Eichel, obviously, we know left Buffalo kind of in a bad way. He was upset with how the team was playing. Then he had his injury. The Sabres wanted it to go one way with his neck. Eichel wanted to go another way. So it wasn't a great ending with Eichel with the Sabres. And he's been booed when he comes back. But for the pregame ceremony that was about Team USA and about the gold medal, I didn't hear a boo when Eichel was introduced and they had him out there to do the ceremonial puck drop when it was Eichel and Thompson. It was a lot of cheers, a lot of chants of USA. Thompson thought it was one of the greatest moments that he's ever had. So that was all positive. Once the game started and Eichel got the puck, there was back to being some boos. And that's okay if fans want to do that when the game's going on. But I'm glad that fans reacted the way they did. Yes, maybe you're still mad that the Eichel situation didn't work out, and maybe you think Eichel's a big reason to blame for that, and that's anybody can have that opinion. That's fine. But the Team USA accomplishment, since, as you know, the United States does not win gold in hockey. They're not perennial favorites like Canada would be. So for us, and I'll say it as a U.S. hockey fan, it's great. I think with the U.S. is very good in a lot of sports. Like, we know this. Like, to me, they're very good in basketball. They're the perennial favorite all the time. Yep. Them winning gold for basketball, like, I'm just like, they're supposed to. They're really good. Like, They have the best team, of course. For hockey, yes, they've gotten better to the point where maybe you could even argue they're the second favorite, but they're not the dominating team. So it feels like a cool accomplishment. And I was too young in 1980. I was only 1 year old when they won gold. So in Lake Placid.
I was 8.
So
it's been a while.
I've never gotten to see them win gold. So for me, as just a U.S. hockey fan, it was a really, really cool thing.
I guess you're right, because in Canada, if we won the gold medal, it would have been like, okay, it was expected and stuff like that. But also, you know what, Brian, regardless who won, Canada, US, or even if it was Sweden or another country, the game of hockey is the biggest winner. And when the game of hockey is played at that level, like it was between the Americans and Canadians, it's the best sport in the world, in my opinion.
This will really help hockey globally. The fact that look at the teams that didn't even win medals. Sweden, who was great. Yep. Slovakia, who was great. Switzerland, Latvia, even, you go down to Latvia, even some of these teams, they were playing 1-goal games, overtime games against Team Canada, against the United States. Like, these games they're getting tighter and more intense, and the excitement is building. The Olympic hockey experience was the best it was in my lifetime. And I think it's only going to grow the game all around the world. I mean, Canada, the U.S., I know we love taking claim to the sport. It is Canada's sport by far, number one for sure. I love how it's grown in the U.S. to the point now where the U.S. players and team can compete with Canada. I also love the fact that the Scandinavian countries like Finland and Sweden are right on the doorstep, and Latvia and Slovakia and Switzerland. I love it, because when it's a global game, then, as you said, that's how it grows. And for all of us that love it, like, don't you want others to love it too, so you can all share in the enjoyment? Like, that's why we love sports.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the NHL replacing the All-Star game with the Four Nation Cup instead?
I loved it last year. If you did it every year, would it lose its spice? And that's the tough part, because the Olympics is every 4 years. So maybe, I know that, this creates like what's going on this year? Maybe you do the Four Nations every 4 years, and you can kind of alternate. You could go Olympics, All-Star Week, Four Nations, All-Star Week. Back to the Olympics, All-Star Week, Four Nations, All-Star Week. Maybe something like that. I wouldn't want to do the Four Nations the other 3 years in between the Olympics, because then I think it becomes less special, especially with the top 4 teams, with Finland and Sweden and the U.S. and Canada. Those games were great. When there's a little buildup in between, it makes us want it more, and I think it makes the intensity more. So I don't think I need it to happen every single year.
Just like the outdoor game, I think the novelty of the outdoor game has lost its luster, in my opinion.
I agree with you, Chris. It's too many. I know people want it, but when it's multiple times a year, it loses its luster. It really does. If I'm the NHL, I would do one a year, do it near New Year's Day, call it the Winter Classic, rotate it around, and then it makes it really, really special. I think having 3 or 4 of them every year,
too much.
It's too much, and it doesn't make it as special. And sometimes I'm even forgetting, oh my God, I forgot that's the outdoor game that's on tonight, kind of thing. If we knew there was only one a year, the build-up and the attention to it would be a lot greater.
Any chance the Sabres in the next couple of years will apply for an outdoor game at the new Highmark Stadium?
Yes, and Gary Bettman has even said that he thinks the chances are very high that it'll happen. I don't know if it'll be a Winter Classic because then they have to bank on NFL playoffs. And the NFL playoffs have been kind of pushing more into January. So my guess it would be kind of an outdoor game, February or March or something like that. But yes, I think the commissioner has said, yes, essentially they've committed to one. They just don't know when it'll be yet.
Brian, last question as we wrap this up. Can you just tell us about the Sabres' next broadcast on WGR Sports Radio 550 and thoughts on the Penguins tonight? I thought it was at the Key Bank, but it's in the Igloo tonight in Pittsburgh at 7 o'clock start.
Yeah, in Pittsburgh, 7 o'clock. We'll have pregame at 6 o'clock. If you're not somewhere where you can get WGR on now one of our stations, AM or FM, you can always download the Odyssey app and just search WGR, and you can pick it up there. And then, of course, Dan Dunleavy, Rob Ray will have the game. Myself, Pat Malacaro, Paul Hamilton will be on during intermissions and on the post-game show.
And you know what? I'm really hoping your team gets in the Sabres, the Red Wings as well, because it's been a long time in Detroit and Buffalo, and it would be great for the NHL to have Buffalo and Detroit back in the playoffs as well. And looking forward to it. And Brian, I want to wrap this up. I want to say thank you so much for giving us some time out of your busy schedule. And it's nice to finally have you on my show with the Sabres playing so competitive and so good. And it's really good for the city of Buffalo. I'm so happy. And just hopefully they can continue to keep this up one game at a time.
I agree. Thanks, Chris. It's been great to talk to you. I know, yes, it's a different tone for our conversation finally. It's great.
Absolutely, Brian. And you have an open invite to come back on again in the future as well.
Sounds great. Hey, when Buffalo and Detroit play in the playoffs, we'll do another one.
Fingers crossed, and I'm really hoping Steve Yzerman does something at the trade deadline, because I think the Red Wings do need a little boost, and hopefully he can pull off a trade. And that trade deadline is going to be interesting tomorrow too. Friday, March 6th at 3 p.m. Eastern is a trade deadline, I believe.
Yep, tomorrow it is. So we'll see some movement.
Say hi to Pat Malacaro for me. He's going to be on my show hopefully in the next couple of weeks talking Bisons. Brian, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody who listened. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Brian. All right, everybody. That wraps up season 13, episode 11, overall 671 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by our friends at Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, located at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph, Ottawa. Check out their website, barrycullen.com. And as we wrap up this show, guys, the federal EV rebate is back. Get up to $5,000 off the purchase of your new Chevrolet EV. More details available at Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, again located at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph, Ottawa. So again, the federal EV rebate is back, and you can again get $5,000 off the purchase of your new Chevrolet EV. More details at barrycullen.com or pop by the dealership again at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph, Ottawa. And Barry Cullen Chevrolet is a proud sponsor of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. Before we wrap this up, guys, I did a little video the other day from the Cambridge District Humane Society for a fundraiser that's coming up, and we're going to play this clip courtesy of my YouTube channel. Just bear with me. I'm going to play, and this is courtesy of Chris Palme, Live with CDP Talk Show on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share. And this is regarding an upcoming fundraiser event for the Cambridge District Humane Society. Palme here, dog walker and fundraiser with the Cambridge District Humane Society, and they have a special event taking place on Saturday, April 11th, 2026, from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern at the Cambridge Newfoundland Club, located at 1500 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario. The event is called Prohibition Speakeasy Fundraising Event. Tickets are only $75, and the proceeds go back into the programs at the Cambridge District Humane Society. You can get your tickets at cambridgehumanesociety.org, or you can call the shelter at 519-623-7722, extension 0. Ask for Zach or Kat, or you can drop by the Cambridge District Humane Society, 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, and see Zach and Kat. And hopefully we'll see you at the event on Saturday, April 11th at the Cambridge Newfoundland Club. Come support the Cambridge District Humane Society. Thank you, Chris. That clip again was courtesy of my YouTube channel, Chris Pame, live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show on YouTube. Subscribe, like, and share. Guys, as we wrap up, I do have another show today. This is a doubleheader Thursday. We just had Brian Koziol from WGR Sports Radio 550, 107.7 and 104.7 FM in Buffalo, New York, coming on to talk Buffalo Sabres with us. And then my next live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show is tonight at 7 p.m. with members of Epic Players in New York, Talia Eppen, Kayla Robinson, and Jordan Boyette. So Talia Eppen, Kayla Robinson, and Jordan Boyette from Epic Players will be on tonight. It's a neurodivergent nonprofit organization that helps it helps adults with autism get into the entertainment industry. So Thursday, March 5th, tonight, 7 o'clock, please check out Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, again with Talia Eppen, Director of Operations with Epic Players. Kayla Robinson and Jordan Boyette will be my guests as well. 7 o'clock tonight. And then Friday night, 7:30, I have a Detroit sports edition of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. Friday night, March 6th, 7:30. 3 members of the Knee Jerk podcast based out of Detroit will be my guests. Greg, Big Al, and Nick will be on, and we're going to talk Detroit Red Wings. Hopefully Steve Yzerman will make some trades by then. We're going to talk Red Wings, the trade deadline, the Pistons, and also we're going to talk a little bit about the Detroit Tigers and maybe a little about the Olympics as well. So if you're a fan of the Knee Jerks podcast, Detroit sports teams, check out Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show Friday at 7:30. And also make sure you tune in tonight at 7 o'clock with Talia Eppen, Kayla Robinson, and Jordan Boyette from Epic Players in New York City as well. And as we wrap this show up, guys, I've got some comments here from Robbie Schneider from Buffalo, New York. Great guest, great show. Hi, Brian. Go Sabres. Thank you, Robbie, for always watching. Please, guys, make sure you follow Robbie Schneider and subscribe to his YouTube channel. He's got a podcast show himself, the 716 Sports Blizzard podcast. And he just wants to say, hi, Chris and Brian, great show. Thank you, Robbie, so much for watching as well. And as we wrap up this show, guys, you can follow Brian Koziol on these social media platforms. He is on Twitter, X, at BrianWGR, and he's also on the website is odyssey.com/WGR550 as well. And the Buffalo Sabres website is on NHL.com/Sabres, or just click in Sabres.com as well. And speaking of the Sabres, they are back in action tonight as well. They are taking on the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight, I believe, at 7 o'clock tonight. Sabres and Penguins tonight at 7 o'clock. And then the Sabres are in Nashville, and then they have a game against Tampa Bay on March 8th as well. So it's a big weekend for the Buffalo Sabres, who are 1 point ahead of the Detroit Red Wings. Right now in the East, in the Atlantic Division, Tampa Bay is number 1 with 80 points, and they have 2 games in hand on Buffalo. So Tampa 80 points, Buffalo 78 points, and Detroit 77 points. And the Sabres do have 1 game in hand on the Red Wings, and they're up by 1 point, and they're only 2 behind Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay still has games in hands on Detroit and Buffalo as well. And as we wrap up this show, guys, again, you can email me at Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show at cpame19@gmail.com. And you can also follow me on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, Blue Sky Social at Live with CDP19 on Blue Sky Social. And also make sure you subscribe, like, and share to my YouTube channel as well. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, the audio version is on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, Tuned In, YouTube Music, Good Pods. Remember to subscribe, like, and share as well. And I'm also on TikTok. You can find me on TikTok at Chris Pame. Basically, I'm on all social media platforms except Snapchat as well. Again, I want to say thank you to Brian Koziol, again, the pre- and post-game host on the Buffalo Sabres Radio Network on WGR 550, 107.7 and 104.7 FM in Buffalo, New York. Sabres are in action tonight tonight and taking on Pittsburgh at 7:00. And NBA, the Pistons Spurs rematch tonight, 8:00, this time in San Antonio. Pistons are coming off a tough 112-109 loss to the Cavaliers in Cleveland the other day. Pistons are going to try to rebound from a 114-103 loss to the Spurs last week at the Little Caesars Arena in Detroit as well. And the Red Wings are back in action on Friday night at 7:30 as well. So it's a busy week for Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. And I want to say thank you again to Brian Koziol from WGR 550 for coming on. And thank you everyone for watching this live stream on my audio platforms. And of course, to my sponsor and advertiser, Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership as well. I hope everybody has a great afternoon, and we'll see you back here tonight at 7:00 with Talia Eppen, Kayla Robinson, and Jordan Boyette from Epic Players in New York City. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you in a little bit. Thank you again for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet and hosted by yours truly, Chris Palme.